Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for visiting Rabbani Research. We will talk on choke points today. Countries are turning economic infrastructure into political weapons, and that poses a major risk to business. And we will see what more we can learn from this. This presentation is based on the article Choke Points by Henry Farrell and Abraham and L. Newman from Harvard Business Review. These are the pictures of the authors, and this is the detail. You can read it yourself if you like. Countries are turning economic infrastructure into political weapons, and that poses a major risk to business. End of the Cold War. Since the end of the Cold War, businesses have built an awe-inspiring global infrastructure. Digital pipelines move vast amounts of capital and data around the world, and supply chains crisscross international boundaries in a spider web of commerce. An intricate system of networks keeps the global economy running smoothly, but it's easy to take for granted because it remains largely hidden from the view. Choke points. Though these networks appear to have multiple redundancies and to be decentralized, many have significant choke points. Global finance relies on a single organization in Belgium to relay the majority of transactions between banks. Cloud computing's information storage facilities are often located in the United States. Seemingly neutral infrastructure. These choke points allow seemingly neutral infrastructure to be manipulated by governments to further their national strategic goals. China's push into 5G equipment has raised concern in the West precisely because it might give the Chinese access to key parts of emerging communications network. Japan recently restricted the export to South Korea of 3 chemicals crucial to the production of semiconductors because of a political spat with Seoul, and the United States has aggressively exploited its control of a variety of seemingly technical structures that make global trade possible. It now appears increasingly willing to turn those structures into a machinery of domination. New reality. This new reality was summed up by former NSA Director Michael Hayden in describing why the U.S. government coerced technical companies to help its surveillance efforts by sharing confidential information routed through private servers on U.S. soil. This is a home game for us. Why would we not turn the most powerful telecommunications and computing management structures on the planet to our use? Next is political risk. Today, the political risk businesses face doesn't come from developing countries that might abruptly change market rules or nationalize assets. It comes from powerful, wealthy states that are turning economic networks into political weapons. The stakes are high. Companies that are isolated from critical networks can go out of business. A global bank blocked by the United States from accessing a secure interbank communication system because it provides financial services to an American adversary is not going to be a global bank for long. A technology manufacturer that can't buy sophisticated chips is in big trouble. Businesses that control digital hubs and are pressed into service by states can suffer reputational damage. US technical giants like Google and Facebook, for example, took a hit in foreign markets after Edward Snowden revealed that they had cooperated with US surveillance activities. America's new role. As political scientists, we have been studying the United States' use of economic networks to achieve its national objectives to close to 2 decades, and we feel that the corporate world consistently underestimates the risks from this form of political muscle flexing. In large part, that's because the country has long been proponent and guarantor of global business. So it is hard to conceive of it as a potential threat. It's equally hard to imagine that the networks that have been the driving force of globalization could be used to chain and entangle companies. But we believe that the America First approach, which treats international business infrastructure as a political tool, is profoundly reshaping the world economy. Diplomacy with the raw exercise of power. However, what started as an aggressive and coordinated response after 9/11 has been supercharged by the Trump administration, which at times has replaced diplomacy with the raw exercise of power. The president has increasingly been weaponizing economic networks and has rarely coordinated with businesses or allies when doing so, and his administration has targeted developed nations and economic powers like China rather than rogue regimes and terrorists, which has emboldened China and other countries to retaliate or even mimic America's tactics to further their own interest. To understand how things have changed, consider America's sanctions against Iran. The Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, that is SWIFT, based in Belgium, runs a secure financial messaging service that is used for most global financial transactions. In 2012, the Obama administration and the European Union used these choke points to press Tehran for concessions on its nuclear program. They cut Iranian financial institutions out of SWIFT in 2012, but then restored access after a nuclear deal was struck in 2015. Crucial technical components. The Trump administration has also exploited its de facto control of the flow of crucial technical components to target both China and rogue states like Iran and North Korea. From 2010 to 2016, the Chinese telecommunication manufacturer ZTE sold restricted technologies to Iran and North Korea, violating U.S. export controls. It was forced to agree to an expensive settlement with U.S. authorities. When ZTE flouted that settlement, the U.S. government banned American firms from supplying ZTE with parts including the Qualcomm chips it needs. This might have driven ZTE out of business if President Trump had not swapped a lighter penalty for concessions in his trade fight with China. U.S. government blacklisted the Chinese telecommunications giant Huawei. The U.S. government blacklisted the Chinese telecommunications giant Huawei. Corporate America had expected the United States to ban Huawei from selling to domestic markets. Many in the business community, however, didn't anticipate the decision to restrict the export to U.S. technology to Huawei, putting the firm's very existence in danger and injecting uncertainty into global supply chains. Huawei estimated that more than 1,200 U.S. firms would lose contracts with it. Google has warned that it will not provide Android to new Huawei phones, and Microsoft temporarily stopped selling Huawei laptops on its online store. This has led China to threaten to constrain its sales to essential rare earth metals to U.S. technology companies and to start building its own blacklist of foreign firms. FedEx. FedEx is at risk of being put on that list because the Chinese government claims that the company knowingly rerouted Huawei packages destined for China from other countries in Asia to the United States. US manufacturers are frantically checking their supply chains to identify Chinese partners that might be subject to the new economic tensions, while financial firms are asking whether they want to orient themselves towards the United States or China. U.S. government blacklisted an additional 28 Chinese firms. In October 2019, the U.S. government blacklisted an additional 28 Chinese firms for their role in human rights violations against Muslim minorities in China. As of this writing, the U.S. Justice Department was trying to block the completion of a $300 million submarine cable that would connect Hong Kong and Los Angeles, and had already mostly been laid by Google, Facebook, or Dr. Peng Telecom and Media Group, a Chinese company, on the grounds of national security. A new game. As other powerful states respond to and even model the US strategy, a war is quietly being waged through manufacturing ties and business relationship. US officials are concerned that Chinese produced components could be compromised and then deployed in surveillance activities or that sabotage. Chinese leaders fear that the United States will use ZTE playbook against more Chinese firms. They worry that America sees Chinese economic strength as a security threat and will do everything it can to hamper and even cripple the Chinese economy. This is one reason they are trying to accelerate their ability to develop and manufacture advanced chips, so that they won't be at the mercy of US government. The European Union. Although the European Union has officially identified China as a rival and begun to pay much closer attention to Chinese acquisitions, it is still far less belligerent towards China than the United States is. Indeed, it's beginning to create ways to work around US economic power and perhaps even oppose it. For instance, Europeans have started to experiment with alternative financial channels that are less exposed to US pressure. In 2019, the government of France, Germany, and the United Kingdom jointly created an international barter system known as INSTEX, which offers an alternative payment method that circumvent US sanctions on Iran. INSTEX has had teething problems, and trade between Iran and Europe is negligible, but Europe's experiment may give it the tools to counteract future US sanctions against much more economically important countries like Russia. Samsung and LG. Disputes can quickly escalate. When Japan pushed back against South Korean claims for World War II reparations by blocking the export to Korea of key chemicals needed for the semiconductor and manufacturing industries, it sent chills through the boardroom of Samsung and LG. South Korea, in turn, has threatened to retaliate by cutting off supplies of heating oil to Japan. Businesses are being forced into involuntary service in purely political disputes. Understanding your exposure. When government target choke points companies, other businesses can get caught in the crossfire. The US ban on Huawei reverberated throughout the firm's supply chain. The US chipmaker Skyworks, which got 12% of its sale from Huawei, was blindsided. Its stock fell sharply and took weeks to recover. Upstream political uncertainty is leading all communications firms to delay 5G investment. The CEO of Sweden's Tele2, Anderson Nilsson, put it bluntly, decisions are postponed. This is not only Huawei, this is all vendors. Anti-American backlash in China. As China retaliates, the economic fallout is likely to spread. Cisco's CEO Chuck Robbins says the anti-American backlash in China is hurting his company. We are being uninvited to bid. We are not even being allowed to participate anymore. Tertiary companies that are neither choke points providers nor directly up or downstream will also be affected. A slowdown in 5G rollout will reshape entire markets for mobile equipment, audiovisual offerings, and smart connected products. Mitigating the risk. After the terrorist attack on 9/11, the U.S. government sought private sector help. A group of firms running network choke points, mostly notably FedEx, volunteered to work with it. FedEx CEO Fred Smith argued at the time, all we are trying to do is to protect our assets and not have our asset be used for bad purposes. This approach can have great benefits, but it may pose problems in a world where cooperating with one government may provoke another government to target you. Hong Kong Shanghai Bank, for instance, complied with U.S. authorities' demand for financial information on Huawei, and now it is at risk of being blacklisted in the Chinese government. The global initiative known as Digital Geneva Convention is to develop core norms of cyber security. The goal is to persuade private companies to collectively commit to limiting offensive cyber attacks, including those by the U.S. government. Already, over 100 firms have signed the initiative Cybersecurity Technical Accord. As tensions heat up between the United States and China and Russia, businesses with control of economic choke points will need to consider how they can work together to depoliticize their roles. Potential fallout of network attacks. Businesses can also reduce some of the potential fallout of network attacks by educating government officials. Network connections are so complex that policy makers often don't understand how interventions could produce unexpected consequences. When the United States announced sanctions against Russian metal giant Rusal, it did not anticipate that they might bring the European auto industry to a halt, and it had to modify them swiftly. The more businesses government relations offices can do to educate policymakers, the better. Firms also can push back directly against the most disruptive policies. In the wake of the initial Huawei ban, the US semiconductor industry quickly lobbied the Commerce Department and the White House to ease it. Wish you best of luck. We are business consultants based in Pakistan. If you need to accelerate your organizational performance and transform your company to meet the upcoming business challenges for a better tomorrow, please contact us for a turnaround. You can find us at rabbaniresearch.net. Trust Rabbani for quality competence. Thank you so much.